This session is brought to you by Talisis in collaboration with NEPANOA Transformation Advisory. Talisis, empowering people to transform.
Hello, I am Alberto Villarreal, Managing Director of NEPANOA Transformation Advisory. The purpose of this session is to show you the steps to accomplish 3 objectives during COVID-19. How to better prepare for the next crisis. How to encounter opportunity for your business during a crisis. And how to identify changes to implement now that will impact the present and the future of your business. When COVID-19 was declared a pandemic, NEPANOA released a COVID-19 playbook that details the actions businesses should take to protect their people, their business, and to rebound after the crisis. The first step of that playbook was to create a reaction team. That reaction team was composed in the middle by the decision makers, C-level, experienced executives that will make the decisions that will drive the organization either left or right during a crisis. In the outer layer, you had functional leaders, and their job was to provide insight and information to the decision team and also drive the actions that came from the decision team to the organization. For the steps that we're about to review, I recommend building a similar team, but with the support of a very strong project manager that can drive the sessions that we will go over. The sole objective of this team, let's call it the Reactivation Team, is going to be to define the future of the organization. It is tough to talk about the future of a business when we are in the middle of a crisis. We are all experiencing it. And the issue with this crisis is that we don't know exactly when it will end and how the future will look like after. The way we see it, there are 2 types of businesses. Those that are running 1,000,000 miles an hour to survive, and those that simply have time by now. Whether you are in bucket A or bucket B, you should devote time to make an educated guess of how the future will look like and how does your organization add value in it. The steps that we're about to review have been divided in 4 key areas: gather and learn, imagine the future, prioritize, and execute. For the purpose of this exercise, we chose a 4 to 8 week timeline. This may vary depending on the size of your organization and, of course, how COVID-19 evolves. Let's remember that the actions that we're going to review will enable us to meet the objectives that we established at the beginning. Those objectives are: be better prepared for another crisis, identify opportunities for the future of the organization, and find changes that can be implemented now and that will impact the organization today and in the future. Let's start with gather and learn. In the gather and learn phase, the objective is to collect as much information as possible from your employees, from your clients, from your suppliers, and also information that's out there. The idea is to be able to analyze it and derive opportunities from it. Alberto, you're crazy. Right now we're in the middle of a crisis. How are we going to gather this information? Well, actually, this is the perfect time to speak to your employees, have a one-on-one with them. Or guess what? You can also do a survey and ask them, how are you doing? Do you feel comfortable working at home? Are you being productive? Hey, based on your experience, do you feel that we could add more value to our customers in the future? All that information is very important and it should be asked to your employees. Talk to your clients. Ask your clients, hey, how are we doing? Sorry, we had to close, but guess what? We're gonna come back on X or Y date. And when we do, this is what we're gonna provide you with. And ask them, is that okay? Ask them, hey, at this time, are we failing you in any way? Would you be happy if we did X? Would you like it if we did Y? How would you complement it? That information is very important. Right now, we feel that the world kind of stopped for many people. Let's use that time wisely to gather information. Let's go to our suppliers. In the end, our suppliers provide us the materials, provide us the services that allow us to operate. Right now, it's the time to build strong bonds. And I cannot think of a stronger bond to build than thinking about what are we going to do in 8 weeks when we go back to business. Have conversations with them. Perhaps you will be surprised of the ideas that they have for your business to make money in the future. At this point, you want to gather all that information and complement it with the information that's out there from the government, from health organizations, and also from the different business chambers that are working night and day for businesses to survive in the post-COVID-19 world. That's the objective of the gather and learn phase. Great, Alberto. We now have all this information. We have a list of opportunities, we have a list of issues, we have a list of lessons learned of the way that we reacted to COVID-19. And I applaud you, that's a great start. But now we need to focus on the fun stuff, which is imagine the future. So the way to get ready for the imagine the future phase is to take those lists of opportunities, of issues, of changes, of lessons learned, and do a first pass of prioritizing them. Alberto, who's doing that? Well, probably it's the project management team and the functional leaders. They can take care of each one of those areas before we go into the Imagine the Future phase. So let me walk you through the steps. First, you want to show to the decision team, those executives, the information that was gathered and the opportunities, issues, and lessons that you enlisted. Let's get them to rank them. Let's get them to react to them. Which ones are feasible? Which ones are actually part of the strategy of the company? Perhaps they have thought of some of them before. Perhaps some of them are completely new, but start making sense. What we want at this stage is to get them familiar with what they see from their employees, what they hear from their clients, and how they can partner with their suppliers. Let's start making sense of the information. And then we dive into the ideation session. And what happens in an ideation session is that we allow people to actually expose new ideas based on what they have learned. There are very different ways to do this. You can divide them in groups or you can do them individually. It depends on the size of your organization. But these are very powerful exercises that enable brainstorming and many times bring out the best ideas for the organization. I'm not asking you to be a genie and say, boom, this is the future. But what I'm asking you to do is to go through the steps and use the technology available. I know that this is possible because last week we did it for a client. Everybody was engaged. We could see each and every one of the faces of the participants and we could measure how they were reacting to these ideas. Now let's dive into the third phase, the prioritize phase. And there are really two main objectives here. The first one is to understand which issues are going to be taken care of, which opportunities will be addressed, and which changes will be implemented sooner or later. The second objective is to build a profile for each one of these items, really dive into what it will take to get them done. Now let's go back to the first goal, to prioritize each one of the items on the list. Well, I'm going to ask you to draw a graph where in the x-axis you have visibility and on the y-axis you have impact. The information that you have gathered in the prior two phases, gather and learn and imagine the future, should provide you enough information for you to plot each one of the items on the list into this graph. This graph will provide you excellent guidance as to what comes first, what comes later, and the level of importance of each one of these initiatives to your organization. Now going into the second objective, building a profile for each one of the items of this list. Let's think it through. You obtained a lesson learned of something that you should change in the way that we reacted for the next crisis. Well, what will it take to implement that change? Do you need money for it? Who needs to participate? How are you going to train people to react in a different manner? Or you got an idea for a new service. Fantastic. Who can you partner with to provide that service? When would it be the best time to actually do it? Do you have budget for it? Who needs to approve that budget? Build that profile for each one of the items on the list. That will help you develop the roadmap of the future for your organization. And we have reached the final stage of this exercise, the execution stage. Businesses need to take advantage of how malleable organizations are. People during crisis are ready to rally behind change. So I recommend you to take 3 specific actions at this point in time. The first one is perform those highly visible change items. Perhaps there's a process that you have not touched in a while and you always wanted to re-engineer. Or based on the feedback that you obtain, you need to update your work from home policy. Or there was an org structure redesigned for a specific team that you really wanted to do for some time, but you were just avoiding. Do them now. People will rally behind those changes. Things will get done. The second piece is build a roadmap for the future. Take those opportunities to provide future services or to implement future changes in your organization and draw them out. Make a conscious effort of mapping when is the right time to perform them. And the third one is use the lessons learned of the event that just happened. We're in the middle of COVID-19. You have done some great things in your reaction, and perhaps there are others that you can improve. Well, now it is time for you to update your crisis reaction guide. The steps that you will take next time you face a critical and unexpected event. To end this session, I want to leave you with one final thought. Businesses who attempt to only survive are doomed to fail. Businesses who prepare, plan, and ultimately invest in the future will not only survive, but they will thrive. Ask yourself, what type of business are you? I am Alberto Villarreal, Managing Director of NEPANOA Transformation Advisory. Thank you very much for your time.